has started, and then I will proceed with the housekeeping. So just bear with me one moment. Good morning all. Welcome to the meeting of the Standards Committee for the 26th of March 2026. May I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet, and this recording archived for future viewing. If a participant wishes to speak, can they please raise their hand on screen or use the raise hand button, which is in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. When invited to address by the chair, Mr. Hendicott, please could all participants ensure that their microphone and camera is on for the sake of the recording, and to make sure they can be seen and heard when actively participating. Please can you ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. Thank you, Chair. That concludes the housekeeping.
Thank you very much and good morning. I appreciate there've been some. Anyway, we'll start the meeting. Part one, number one, apologies for absence.
Yes, apologies have been received from Mrs. Janet Evans and also from Mr. Ronnie Alexander. Councillor Franks has also advised that he is on his way to the meeting shortly, so we're expecting him to connect any moment.
Thank you. I know Janet Evans has been trying to connect. She's it's very when she's prepared for it, it's a problem. I'm sure she's very frustrated, but there we are. Minutes, number two, minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of January. I've checked through those. They seem all right to me. Is anybody want to raise any issues? Or no? So we can take those as an accurate. Oh, sorry, Rihanna.
No, happy to second those.
No, thank you. So we'll take those as.
Sorry, Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I can see that Councillor Franks has joined us now, so I just need to pause proceedings momentarily just to check our quoracy. If you bear with me one moment. Good morning, all. Thank you very much for your patience. We are dealing with a matter of quoracy at the moment. So with the chair's permission, we're going to adjourn temporarily for a few minutes to see if we can support Mrs. Evans with joining in order to make sure we are quorate. So if you don't mind holding for a few moments, we'll come back to you shortly.
Yes.
Hello, Janet. Can I hear you now? We can hear you. You can hear us?
Yes.
That's lovely. Fantastic. Bear with us one
Brilliant.
moment. You come back off screen and we'll get restarted shortly. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you very much, Chair. We're able to resume now. I'll hand back to yourselves. If you don't mind, we'll recap the first two agenda items this morning.
Thank you. Well, the first item, apologies for absence. We had Ronnie Alexander, and owing to a difficulty in connecting, it was also Janet Evans. But I'm pleased to see that she's able to join us now, especially as she's prepared for this. And I think Councillor Franks is with us, so we can proceed on that basis. The minutes, part 2, were agreed as being a true record of the minutes held on the 29th of January 2026. So we move on to item 3, to receive declarations of interest and the nature of such interest under the Council's Code of Conduct. Before I ask our monitoring officer to take us through that, you will note on it that she and I agreed to these two applications, and so they're being brought to you as a committee.
Sorry, Chair. I think you may be referring to the applications for dispensation. Yep. Is that okay? So I don't believe we have any declarations of interest, but I can see Councillor Summers has his hand raised. Do you mind if we...
Yeah, sorry, I missed out item 3, which is to receive declarations of interest. Are there any?
I'm not entirely sure whether I technically need to or not, but as those two dispensations that you started to refer to colleagues of mine on my council, I just need to make that known, I think.
That's absolutely fine, Councillor Summers. Obviously, the context of the two applications are not asking for the committee's approval. It's noting this morning. But so thank you for registering that interest. But you don't have a prejudicial interest for the sake of this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So moving on to item 4, this was the issue about applications for dispensation. You will have read that these two applications were approved by the monitoring officer and myself. They were emergency applications, and they're brought to this committee for noting. I've had a word with the vice chairman and the monitoring officer, and we've agreed that in future, if we have these applications, assuming they're granted, they will only be granted to the next full meeting of the Standards Committee. So then they will be brought before all of you or us to reconsider. It seems wrong to me that you as the committee don't get a chance of really considering these applications or doing anything about it. So with that in mind, I'll ask our monitoring officer to take us through those two applications for dispensation.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a relatively straightforward matter, committee. You may recall from previous reports, there is a delegation in place for myself and the chair of the Standards Committee to agree applications for dispensation if the application received by the Democratic Services Officer isn't received in time for a Standards Committee meeting, we will deal with those on an emergency basis under the delegation. So essentially what this report, which comes to committee today, does is to update the Standards Committee to let them know that this has been authorised under the delegation. It related to 2 community councillors at Penllyn Community Council. All the Standards Committee has been asked to do today is to consider the report. We're not seeking any determination by the committee today, but to note that the delegation was acted upon and dispensations were granted. And as the chairs alluded to, the Standards Committee had agreed that when applications of this nature for dispensation are required, as a matter of urgency by myself as the monitoring officer and obviously in consultation with the chair of the Standards Committee, that they would be reported back. The delegation was exercised on the around the 11th of February. The application was submitted. There was a deadline as the community council in question had a meeting of their community council on the 2nd of March. So as a result of that, under that delegation, we authorised the dispensation in respect of the 2 members of the community council who were referred to in paragraph 2.4 of the report. So I would ask the committee to Standards Committee to consider but not determining the applications for dispensation submitted by the councillors as set out in Appendix 1 of the report. Thanks.
I'll just ask if there are any comments, and do you approve of that in future, if we have this situation again, we will just grant to the next full meeting of the Standards Committee for it all to be for them to be considered by the whole committee?
I'd like to move the approval.
Thank you, Councillor Charles. Any other comments or?
Chair, I think that's a very practical way of dealing with matters. We don't want to obstruct the good work of the Penllyn councillors, so I support it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Does anybody else want to comment or? No. So we'll proceed on that basis that is noted, or those 2 applications are noted. Moving on to 5, the observations by independent members of the Vale of Glamorgan Council and Town and Community Council committee meetings. Vicky, are you able to help us with that, please?
Apologies, Chair. Right, okay, so this is the report dealing with the observations by independent members of the Vale of Glamorgan Council and the Town and Community Councils. I won't go through the background to this report. This is a regular report that comes before this committee, and on this occasion, the independent members who are present today will be able to update on the observations that they've undertaken in respect of meetings attended either by either before this council, the principal council, or meetings of the town and community councils. So as things stand currently, at the 29th of January committee meeting, observation findings were presented for the observation meetings set out in paragraph 1.21. And on that occasion, the committee resolved that the proposal for observations be held within the 26-27 municipal year be presented to committee as its next scheduled meeting. And then in relation to the current position, there was a meeting which Mr. Alexander attended on the 20th of January 2026 at St Nicholas and Bonvilston Community Council. Mr. Alexander isn't present today, so he's not here to provide his observations. However, Mr. Watkins, who attended the Barry Town Council meeting on the 16th of February 2026, is here. So I don't know whether or not this would be an appropriate moment to bring in Mr. Watkins.
Yes,
thank you.
Karen?
Thank you. Yes, it was the 16th of February. It was a hybrid meeting of the Barry Town Council. I attended virtually. As far as I could see, it was very well attended meeting. I found it easy to connect with the meeting. It was the first meeting of a town council that I had attended. The proceedings were a little more formal than what I'd experienced hitherto. That's certainly not a criticism. It was a very friendly atmosphere, got through the agenda purposefully and amicably, and I stayed until the meeting moved into part 2. Simply 2 observations, really. There was an agenda item on the declarations of interest. The agenda also listed those councillors who had received dispensations and the nature of the dispensation. I hadn't come across this before. I don't know whether it's general practice, but I thought it was a very good practice because it made for greater transparency. The other item on the agenda I would mention was the part 2 item. The agenda listed in outline the items which were going to be discussed in part 2, but listed it in such a way that it was quite clear what the nature of the discussion would be, but didn't reveal any confidential information. Again, I hadn't encountered this before. I thought it was a very good practice, which perhaps other councils already adopt, for all I know. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Would you like me, Chair, to continue? Yes. Thank you. So in relation to our next item, the observation on this occasion was undertaken by our chair, Mr. Hendicott, who observed the Principal Council's Governance and Audit Committee, which would have been quite interesting, no doubt. And that meeting was observed on the 23rd of February 2026. I don't know if you'd like to come in, Chair.
Yes, thank you. Yes, this was a meeting that I attended in this room. It was a hybrid meeting, although I turned up in person. The meeting started at 6 o'clock and went on till 8:45, which seemed a bit excessive to me. It was difficult for me, sitting in the public gallery here, to work out who everybody was. There weren't cards present because most of the people had their backs to me. But the meeting went through, it was well conducted. In fact, the chairman, who was independent, had to pull out of the meeting shortly before it occurred, and the vice chairman took it, and he took it from his home. There were some problems. There were problems with the remote, and the one person could not be seen and could be heard. There was a lot of work done. It was all done properly. Everybody was very polite and pulling together, so there were no problems at all on that nature. And bearing in mind it was the Vale Glamorgan Council Governance and Audit, one would expect that. The thoughts and comments I had were that I believe that there were only 2 councillors present and 2 independent members. This made it quorate, but I wasn't very impressed for an important meeting like this that there weren't more councillors and independent members of the committee present to press the officers on what they were reporting. I also felt there was an awful lot of repetition, as the officers were expected to give a resume of what was in their reports, despite the fact that all their reports were present. So this caused the meeting to go on for longer than necessary, in my view. But it was a good meeting, and it was interesting for me to see how the Vale acted in this particular council meeting.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm pleased to say that we've received the observations from Mr. Alexander, who, whilst he isn't present today to deliver those himself, Amy, I think you can come in and update in relation to those observations so that that can be recorded for the purposes of the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. So Mr. Alexander's kindly provided me with a written statement, Chair, which I'll go through. So this statement follows on from Mr. Alexander's second observation of St Nicholas and Bonvilston Community Council. The committee will recall that at the 20th of November meeting, the committee resolved that a second observation be conducted due to a significant amount of disruption during the first observation. Mr. Alexander advises that the meeting he observed, the second meeting on the 20th of January, was again a remote Zoom video meeting, and it commenced at 7 o'clock and ended at approximately 9 p.m. On this occasion, some members of the public were also appeared to be in one meeting room location with two of the community councillors. So for the first hour, the meeting ran reasonably smoothly and the atmosphere was much improved from the previous one. However, from that point on, it became increasingly fractious and the contributions of several community councillors were criticised by a single community councillor who had disrupted meeting process at the observation in August. The disharmony was obvious and located principally in one source. Because of the constant pattern of interruptions, the individual concerned was muted on several occasions and placed on notice by the chair that if they continued in such a manner, they would be removed from the meeting. In the event, that action did not take place. Again, the chair did well to keep the meeting process on track in a timely fashion, and as per previous practice, Mr. Alexander provided a confidential report to the monitoring officer, and he sends his apologies for being unable to attend the meeting today and therefore has provided this written statement to be read out. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So that covers the three reports we've got. Are there any comments or questions? No, it doesn't seem to be. So,
Raised hand from Mrs. Evans, Chair.
oh, I beg your pardon, I couldn't see that. Yes, yes, Janet.
Just a quick question. As you know, I'm relatively new to the Standards Committee. What course of action is open to the Standard Committee for this repeated behaviour that has been observed in the Community Council?
Very good question. I'll pass it over to the monitoring officer.
Thank you, Mrs. Evans. In relation to this Standards Committee, obviously the programme of observation meetings that the Standards Committee has been undertaking now for several years is designed to highlight any issues around not just conduct, but the management of meetings. And I'm going to go on once we've dealt with any additional questions at this point to discuss some of the conversations, not the detail, but some of the meetings and conversations I have with clerks of the town and community councils. I meet with all of the clerks if they wish to go through the observations of each of the independent members. But in terms of the actions of this Standards Committee, there are no legislative provisions in place to address the issues, but obviously through my relationships with and my work with the clerks, and as monitoring officer of the Principal Council, I support the clerks in dealing with issues that may be challenging, if I can say that, within their individual town or community councils. So those are matters that obviously are confidential between myself and the clerk. As you know, town and community councils are legal entities in their own right, so they are responsible for how they manage their meetings, but I try very, very hard to give support and to address any issues that arise.
Okay, thanks, Vicky.
Thank you for that. I think the point is that we can't do anything off our own bat. We as a Standards Committee can only act when complaints are made to us. So I think that covers that issue. Vicky, would you want to comment? Sorry, are there any other comments? No? Oh, right, Councillor Summers. Would you like to comment?
I was just going to ask Vicky or if Amy knew from Mr. Alexander, was he proposing that we should have a follow-up, a third follow-up meeting inspection, just to pick up on that or not? It wasn't mentioned in his report, but I just wondered whether it had been discussed anywhere.
Thank you, Phil. With your permission, Chair, I'll come in on behalf of myself and the monitoring officer. So Mr. Alexander hasn't made any further recommendations. Obviously, as he mentions in his statement, he has given a detailed and confidential account of the observation to the monitoring officer, and Vicky has been addressing that with the relevant clerk to support them with that situation. He hasn't recommended another meeting because obviously from his representations, he's not implying that that situation is likely to be addressed straight away. But obviously we are dealing with that and providing support to the relevant council in the hope of improving that. And you'll also note from Mr. Alexander's comments that he hadn't raised any concerns with regards to any other individual or conduct of how the meeting was run in any sense. So it was that one particular matter, and he's raised that with the monitoring officer now, and we're addressing that with the clerk.
Thank you.
We will be preparing, subject to your agreement, a list of observations for the next financial year or council year. We'll come on to that. Vicky?
Yes. Thank you, Chair. So two other elements of this report which I'd like to address with the committee. The first is the meetings and discussions that have been taking place between myself and the clerks. So I've met with Llantwit Major's clerk, Penarth Town Council, St Nicholas and Bomvilston, but following on from the second observation meeting that we've heard about this morning, I have a further meeting with the clerk. There are some challenges there because the current clerk has resigned, and when I last spoke to the chair of the community council, they were in the process of recruiting a new clerk. But I have regular meetings, monthly meetings with the clerk of that particular community council. Dennis Powis, community council clerk, who's doing a tremendous job there, met with her recently, as are all the clerks, I should say. And I met yesterday, and it's referred to in paragraph 1.23 of the report as an impending meeting, but I met yesterday with the clerk of St Athan community council, whose observation was undertaken last September. Sometimes it takes a while to get round all the clerks and subject to their availability, because some work as little as 7 hours a week. But yes, she and I met yesterday, and she's very pleased with the observations, and commented to me actually that a couple of the points that were raised in the observations, which I went through with her, the Community Council have since addressed. So it shows that how valuable these observations are. I've yet to meet with Wenvo's Community Council's clerk, Sully and Lavenock, Llancarvan and Penllyn, but I met with Natasha, the clerk at Cowbridge and Llanblethian earlier this week about a separate matter, so that this was touched upon, but no issues in relation to those community councils. And just finally then, in relation to the future observation planning, in the report, you'll find Appendix 1, which outlines obviously the progress for the municipal year 25-26 and the proposed allocations for the next municipal year 26-27. The observation schedule remains for the next municipal year based on the current number of town and community councils, 26. But as Phil in particular will be aware, and other members on the call, the Boundary Commission review is going to be taking effect from May 2027. So lots of clerks, lots of community councils impacted by that review are currently undertaking preparatory work ahead of those changes. We'll see community councils reduce from town and community councils, reduced from 26 to 19. And a revised schedule then will be implemented post-election, May 27, to reflect the new structure. So the observations are going to remain as is. And then just really to invite the committee to note the observation reports received, agree that further visits to be arranged when issues arise or where requested by myself as the monitoring officer, and to approve the proposed 26-27 observation programme. And I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. I think these are a good idea. I trust everybody else does. I think, Amy, you've provided a list of where we should go next year. Do any of the independent members have any issues with that? Appendix 1, I see I'm going to Llandow, is it? Llandow, Mickleston, the Pit, and Llanfair, so that's fine. Gerwyn, you've been allotted Pendylan, Welshton Donnet, St George's, and St Bride's Super Ely, and Janet, St Donnet's, Llanmaes and Llandow, and also the Vale of Glamorgan Resources Scrutiny Committee. So presumably, Amy, once you have the dates for those, you'll contact us and we can make our choices.
Yes, Chair, that's correct. So with the committee's approval today, my next steps would be to approach each of those town and community councils that are set to be observed from May this year, asking for their future meeting dates. And then, as always, that those future dates will be shared with the independent members to ask for their preference and availability, in which date they wish to attend. And then the clerk will be notified of that, and arrangements will be made for the clerk to share relevant meeting arrangements and papers with the independent member nearer to the time of the meeting.
Thank you. Is everybody happy with that? Doesn't look as if there are any representations, so we'll proceed on that basis. Good. So that covers that item, Vicky, I think.
Yes, it does. Shall I move on, Chair, to the next item?
Please do, yes.
Yeah, so this is the regular report that the committee see. This is my report to update the committee on a number of matters which fall within the committee's remit. I attended the All Wales Monitoring Officers Group meeting on the 6th of March, so timely in the context of today's meeting. We had a lot of discussion about a lot of matters that are affecting monitoring officers and in particular town and community councils. And that came out of the workshops that took place over the late autumn, winter, facilitated by Welsh Government in relation to the local dispute resolution procedures. So Welsh Government have produced some key points that have arisen as a result of those sessions, and have asked the monitoring officer group, all 22 across Wales, to consider those points and to feedback. There was discussion on other items which are not relevant to the work of this committee, but the items that were discussed, which are included the Ombudsman's representative flagging a recent Merthyr Tydfil case where the member had been referred to that council's standards committee. So I will circulate the link to that report, and it will no doubt feature in the regular report that I bring to this committee in respect of Public Service Ombudsman for Wales update on cases, but I will circulate that link. There was a discussion about the growing complexity of cases, not in this authority, I'm pleased to say, but in other authorities involving bullying of officers by elected members, and the practical challenges that the Ombudsman's office is experiencing in gathering reliable evidence, witness evidence. And I think it was felt by some that the delay in progressing some of those investigations can cause issues, particularly for the member of staff or the officer in question. So there was a discussion about that, and the Ombudsman is considering whether any improvements can be made, although it is very difficult, as it was explained, when you rely on witness evidence and that isn't immediately forthcoming, it's very difficult to prepare the case and to progress the investigation. But each of those cases will be obviously fact specific. So the only other issue that came out of the meeting, and it related to, and I think this was the takeaway really, is for monitoring officers to consider in the context of the work with the town and community council sector and the LRPs, how the mandatory member code of conduct training could be applied consistently across the Welsh local government sector, and that's an issue that we're all considering. One of the proposals that's come out of that work is that the training should be mandatory, and whilst lots of town and community councils clerks arrange for member code of conduct training, and it does happen, certainly in my experience from discussing this with clerks across the 26 we've currently got in the Vale. They do deliver member code of conduct training, but there was this suggestion as a result of the work undertaken by Welsh Government that that's made mandatory, which it isn't at the moment. So we were asked to go away and consider that. It's not covered in the report, but there's been some development since the report was drafted in relation to the preparation that's now underway in respect of the induction programme for the new cohort of members in each council across Wales from May 2027. For my part and my colleagues, it's very much a focus on the member code of conduct. So we've joined a working group which is being facilitated by the Welsh Local Government Association, and we're currently working with other monitoring officers. It's a small group to start developing changes to the member code of conduct training, looking at how that's framed, how it's delivered, perhaps looking at more workshop type sessions, and also to broaden it to reflect some of the challenges that I experience and I deal with as a monitoring officer and others across Wales in relation to issues around misinformation and the use of social media and the implications as a result of social media and AI technology in particular, and some of that is being seen across Wales, and so it's something that we all felt is important to feature as part of the training, because it's it's being seen as a national issue. So that's very much at its early stages, and I'll update the committee in relation to that as that work progresses. And the very last thing I wanted to update the committee on, you'll recall in July of last year, we brought a report here to the Standards Committee in respect of the group leader duties. And as part of our work with group leaders, we the chair and I meet with each of the group leaders separately at a mid-year point. And those meetings took place last week with 3 of the group leaders, and yesterday then with the 4th group leader. So I'm pleased to say that those discussions have taken place. And I'd say, Chair, you'll probably want to come in at this point, but the meetings were really, really helpful.
Thank you for that. Yes, we had our meetings with the group leaders, and I think they were all positive meetings. I think we're all working to the same end, and I think they were worthwhile. Are there any comments or questions on Vicky's report? Yes, Councillor Summers.
Thank you.
Sorry, Phil, would you mind activating your microphone again, please?
That better?
Yes, you're on screen now. We can hear and see you.
Thank you. I'd just like to reinforce from the Community Council point of view the comment that Vicky is already getting back from indicates she's getting back from the clerks, that as far as the Vale TCCs are concerned, the vast majority, if not all, are already undertaking code of conduct training and induction training. And I think the general feeling amongst all those our councils is that both of those things should be mandatory. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? Okay, thank you very much. The next item is a feedback report, Standards Committee Procedures Working Group. Back to you, Vicky.
Thank you. So in relation to this report, I'll take members of the committee back a little while. On the 2nd of December 2024, the full council resolved, and it was as a result of a motion that was brought to full council, that a review should be undertaken of the standards of conduct principles, the protocol, which is section 19 of our constitution, standards of conduct expected by members, and also the local dispute resolution procedure, and the procedure for hearings before the standards committee. So following on from that, this committee resolved to establish a working group who met on two occasions. On the first occasion on the 22nd of October last year, and then the final meeting took place on the 10th of December to consider those revisions. So the group reviewed the advice which was circulated by the Monitoring Officer Group received from the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales. So that advice was arranged by the PSOW and was shared with the Monitoring Officer Group. So that advice was considered. And then the LDRP, which is Appendix 3, was reviewed. The hearing procedure was also considered. And then finally, the Section 19, which includes the principles and protocols, Appendices 1 and 2, were also considered during those discussions within the working group. So I'll run through the key findings of the working group. So in relation to the consideration of the council opinion, which was facilitated by the PSOW, in the context of the LDRP, it was agreed by the group that this applies to low-level member-on-member complaints, obviously at principal council level. It rejected expanding the procedure to allow officers to make complaints under the LDRP due to existing officer-member protocols and obviously HR processes. I should say that in the context of that other councils' standards committees have endorsed LDRPs which contain provision for complaints by officers against members, but that's not something we have adopted in this council. It was agreed that examples of behaviours and high-level complaints didn't necessarily need to be incorporated, as Section 19 already covers that off. The LDRP, it was affirmed, requires both parties' agreement, and the public complaints or officer complaints should not be considered, as I've noted, under the LDRP. It was suggested by the working group that there should be a promotion of the use of the LDRP by group leaders and encouragement to the town and community council sector to seek monitoring officer advice before referring matters to the Ombudsman. And I will add that that features frequently in my discussions with clerks, particularly in relation to those low-level complaints. The group considered that there should be perhaps an improvement of the work done around the mediation. And one suggestion is that that we use an independent trained mediator and possibly consider service level agreements with neighbouring authorities to support this work. In relation to the procedure relating to the hearing, the working group observed that the sanctions obviously are limited. I apologise, the hearing stage for the LDRP, that the sanctions are limited, so restricted to apology and training. It was proposed that the terminology censure was removed and that the hearing panel composition should allow for future hearings to remain impartial. So set out in the report is the proposed updates to Section 19 and to the LDRP, and these are set out in Appendix 3 and Appendix 4. The recommendations are that the Standards Committee recommends that it notes the working group's proposed changes with reference to Appendices 2 to 4, that it shares the proposals with political group leaders for their comments. And we have touched upon this in the discussions we've had with the group leaders last week, not all of them, but some of them last week and this week. And then authority to myself, subject to feedback, to refer these amendments on to full council for approval as amendments to the Constitution. I would like to highlight in particular for the committee's attention, and I appreciate everybody has read the papers and will be familiar with the information set out in the papers, but under Section 19 of the Constitution, the proposal is that, and this will be subject to full council approval, of course, there's an insertion of additional requirements and the standards and behaviours expected of members in the context of social media code of principles, and those are set out on my page 205 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that thorough report. Are there any questions or comments, please? Janet, would you like to start off?
Hi, yeah, just a couple of quick comments on the marked up copy. I'm sorry, I should have made my notes based on the clean copy, but I made them on the marked up copy. There on page 4, paragraph 29. There is, sorry, page 6, paragraph 29. There's a mention of legal representation and of the respondent informing the hearing committee or the hearing panel that they wish to bring legal representation. I think it might be useful to give them a timeline for that so that the complainant also has the opportunity to bring legal representation as well. I think if we leave it loose, it may hold up proceedings.
Yes, I can see that, but the parties will have the right to be accompanied by only one representative, which may be a legal representative or otherwise a colleague. So what are you suggesting, that at least 14 days notice must be given or something like that?
That type of thing. Otherwise, they could inform the hearing the day before, which doesn't give the claimant any...
You know. Yes, I'd be happy with that. Gerwin, do you have a view as you were chairing it? No, I can't get through. Okay, Janet, well, thank you for that. Phil Summers, Councillor Summers, do you want to comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Vicky highlighted that in the discussions we picked up on the fact that the arbitration or mediation, I should say, probably not arbitration, mediation stage of the process would benefit from having an independent mediator. As far as I can see from both the clean copy and the marked up, though, under stage 2, we are still showing that that will be run by the chief executive or a nominated director. I'm just wondering if we haven't actually carried something through there.
Yes, I think we did. I can remember.
Yes, thank you, Phil.
Recalling that.
Yes, you are correct. The document is as per the previous agreement. Obviously, it was within the working group meeting. It was something that the monitoring officer agreed to reach out to local authorities in order to establish how they were operating that. Obviously, we haven't taken a stance or decision on that at the moment. So we've remained with what the current procedure has at the moment, but it's something that Vicky is still looking into, and I'm sure she'll come in to advise.
Thank you, Phil. Yeah, absolutely. It's important, isn't it, to make that stage of the process as robust as possible. And I have reached out to other monitoring officers. There's a variation in terms of how they operate their procedures across Wales. I'm quite committed to see whether or not we could implement this as part of the as part of our procedure, and we could today, I'd suggest, add an additional recommendation to the report to be agreed by the committee that work is considered. And when I consult when we consult the chair and I with the political group leaders, and we prepare the report to go on to full council, it's something that can then be considered by the full council and adopted at that point. But it would be a recommendation coming out of this committee today. So happy to agree some wording if that would assist the committee.
I think it's an important point because as it stands, if we go forward with the revised versions as they are, to discussions with the group leaders and the full council, I just have a feeling that's something that's going to get lost in the wash if we don't highlight it. And I think,
fine.
And during our discussions in the subcommittee, my feeling was, and I'm sure others on the committee will say if they feel different, but that we considered that to be a very important point. And as you say, the stage 2, the mediation process, is probably one of the most important points of it. As a local disputes resolution, we want to try and catch as much as we can at that stage before we even go to a hearing.
Yeah, and I think
thank you.
My experience of dealing with them, they don't happen that often, but when they do happen, I think sometimes it's quite challenging for officers to be in that space. I think it's something. So what I'll do is we're wrapping this report up, I'll draft some wording that we can insert into the recommendations, and we can take those forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gerwin, are you there?
Yes.
Do you want to deal with Janet's point about giving 14 days notice of who was going to accompany the parties, the legal representation?
Yes, I'm quite happy with that. But our hope, I think, is that people do not employ legal representatives because we want to keep this process as informal as possible. But
Yes.
that's really a comment. But I agree with the suggestion. Yeah.
But it at the end of the paragraph, it says, if either party decides to have legal representation at the hearing, the monitoring officer is to be notified in advance of the hearing in order
Yes.
to inform the other party. Well, yeah, so we want to put in there 14 days
Yes.
or 10 working days, whatever.
Whatever.
What you normally have in, would you go for working days?
May I come in briefly, Chair?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm obviously we have a large document in front of us at the moment. I'm trying to find the exact point, but obviously there are. It does set out within the document in terms of timescales for invitation to the hearing and in terms of letters of notification. So if it's okay with the committee, I'll assess the document as to what other timescales are, just to make sure that the timescale we add to paragraph 29 is appropriate in line with those other points.
That seems very, very sensible. Yes. Janet, are you happy with that?
Yeah, that sounds like really good way to go.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Amy.
Are there any other comments? No. So the next step now, Vicky, is for this to be put to the council.
Yeah, the first step is obviously the committee agreeing today the matters that are set out in the report and noting those proposed amendments. What I'd suggest in relation to the point we've just been discussing in respect of the mediation point and the SLA is that the Standards Committee endorses the principle of appointing an external independent mediator to undertake mediation under stage 2 of the LDRP and authorises myself as the monitoring officer to investigate potential service level agreements with neighbouring authorities to support this work, with the outcome of this engagement work to be discussed with the group leaders prior to referral to full council for approval. And we could add that, Amy, as an additional recommendation if the committee is satisfied with that. And obviously then subject to consultation with group leaders, we will take a report. Well, it'll actually form part of our housekeeping report that is considered by full council at each meeting in respect of changes to the council's constitution.
Thank you. The first part of that, presumably, we could have an agreement with, say, Bridgend or Cardiff that they could supply an arbitrator or mediator for our cases, and we could do it the same for them. You're nodding, so that's agreed. Good. So is everybody happy that this matter is now just tidied up and put forward to the council, the full council, in accordance with the monitoring officer's direction? Yes, it looks silence. I'll take silence as meaning yes. Okay, thank you very much. We move forward now to the Standards Committee Forward Work Programme. You'll hopefully have read what is proposed over the next municipal year. Do you want to briefly summarise that, Vicky?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the Forward Work Programme for the municipal year 2026-27 is before you. I trust members of the committee have had time to consider the content. The timetable for that municipal year was agreed on the 5th of February, Amy, this year. Yeah. And meeting dates are reflected obviously in the programme. The appointment of the chair and the vice chair will take place at the committee's first meeting on the 14th of May 2026. And the programme, I'd suggest, introduces, and I'm grateful for Amy for undertaking the work in this space, I would suggest introduces a clearer formatting to distinguish the rolling items which are reported at every meeting for specific month items. So I think it should be clearer to members as regards when those regular items are being reported. So the rolling items include the applications for dispensation, observations report by independent members, the monitoring officer update reports, the correspondence with the PSOW, and my meetings on a quarterly basis. The specific month items include the appointment, obviously in May, as I've touched upon, of the chair and vice chair, the group leader duty compliance, which is usually in the July meeting, reports on decisions and findings of the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales and the Adjudication Panel for Wales. We bring the annual reports from the Ombudsman and the APW, and also the Standards Committee annual report is brought to the committee. The proposed operational changes, therefore, are to consolidate the update reports from various national standards bodies into a single monitoring officer update report. So it will cover the PSOW findings and updates and the APW updates in one as opposed to two separately. Just in the July 26 meeting, start time to 11 o'clock to support, and I'd be grateful if this could be agreed to support my availability due to another commitment that earlier that morning, and scheduling a provisional April 27 meeting subject to the pre-election restrictions which will apply at that point in time ahead of the May 2027 local government elections. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Thank you. I don't think those dates.
Sorry, Chair, just bear with us one moment. Sorry, all, just bear with us one moment.
Thank you. For some reason, I seem to go offline there. I was saying that those dates are not embedded in stone because I understand Ronnie Alexander has a problem with 2 or 3 of them, and I might as well. What I suggest is that we're all given, say, 2 dates in May, July, September, and we'll go for the one where most people can attend. I think that's the best way to deal with it. Okay, thank you very much. Item 9, correspondence with the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry.
Councillor Franks, yes.
Hi.
Councillor Franks, would you mind coming back onto screen, please? Councillor Franks, would you mind pressing your activation button, please? You've raised your hand. Oh, there you go. Yep, you're on screen now.
Sorry, I've had horrendous problems. I appreciate the difficulty that we labour under regarding a balance between independent and council representatives, but we really do have to sort this out. It's not acceptable that we have to ask members to step aside from a meeting. It's drummed into councillors that we must try to attend as all our commitments, and that's what we want to do. So hearing the last few comments relating to whether people.
Can I, sorry to interrupt you, can I suggest that we move this into part 2?
if that suits you, yes.
Yes, I think it's probably more suitable for part 2, and we'll deal with it there. Item 9, correspondence with the Public Services Ombudsman for Wales.
Thank you, Chair. And just for Councillor Franks, that there are certain issues that, if I can put it this way, that relate to individual members' circumstances, which I think probably are better, and it goes to some of the points I think you were about to make, so I apologise, but that might be a more appropriate way to deal with it, if that's okay. So the final item under part 1 of the agenda item relates to the standing report of updates in respect of the Ombudsman's investigations. The correspondence that I receive is obviously confidential at this stage, so we will, with the permission of the committee and the chair, move into part 2 to consider that correspondence.
Thank you very much. Item 10, any items which the chair has decided are urgent. No matters have been brought to my attention. So I think that concludes part 1, and subject to your consent, we'll move to part 2.
Thank you. I can see Councillor Charles has approved to move to part 2. So if you bear with me one moment, I'll just stop the live stream and then we will continue.